Hi everyone, and welcome back to another update. It's been a little while since I did an update of what I've been painting recently, and it was probably about November, sometime around Thanksgiving for us in the United States, that I did my update. And hopefully you enjoyed the Christmas Slaneshmas special. That was a fun one to record. Nice to be able to get my EC out there before everyone starts painting up the new shiny models. Maybe take us all back to the old pewter and plastic hybrid kits a little bit. So anyway, I have not been loafing around not painting anything. In fact, I've gotten a sizable amount done. So kick right into it here with my Imjin War update. To start off, I have 3 of the Kobayas I've painted up in the brown and gold fleet. This completes the Kobayas for that fleet. They're painted up exactly like the previous ones. No frills. They're just a small, fast ship. Ready for battle there. In the Japanese section as well, I have 6 chain ships. Now there's some question whether these were actually used, but in the rules set for At the Height of Battle, they have rules for chain barricades, sort of, ways of blocking off your opponent's ships from moving. So I figure maybe these are all anchored in place. You can also find a picture out there on the web of the Japanese fleet. It's the same one I drew my inspiration for the Nihon Maru sculpt that I put together. And it shows some with chains interlinking a couple of the ships. So, I don't know, maybe they used them, maybe they didn't. But one way or the other, I've got 3 sets for each fleet. All they are is the standard Kobaya from MT Miniatures, which they still sell as a Sekibune, and just a piece of barbed wire from Warlord. I got it as part of one of their box sets years ago and didn't really use it. So now it just gets to be a chain interlinking my ships there. The last bits for my Imjin War are the final 4 of the turtle ships. Now, historically, Admiral Yi only ever risked 5 turtle ships in any one engagement, so I figure I'll stick with that. I have a few extras that when I picked up the packet to get the final turtle ships, I had some spares that were part of it, and I may paint them up at the end, maybe do an alternative color scheme or something. But they're painted up identically to how I did the previous, except 2 of them I removed the sails, so it looked like they were just moving entirely under oar. I think it adds a nice little variety to the ships, and they'll fit in great with the Chosen fleet. While we're in the water, I'll show my most recent project. I finished this one up a few days ago. Walrus. Now, why would I paint up a walrus? Well, I had it from a Bones Kickstarter, and it was there. I was there. I was trying to get myself motivated to paint a little bit again. So I figured, what the hey? I got the water effect on there. I think it'll just need a little dry brushing, maybe a little later to make it pop more. And for Yucks, decided to do the whiskers on it, made out of, I want to say it's golden harvest gold or something like that. Static grass. Looks pretty good. He's kind of more of a shelf model, because I don't think I'm ever going to be really using a walrus in a game. But while we're here, I'll show off for my 5 Leagues campaign some of the work I've done. So, I have a creature I've set up I call mana abominations. Basically, if too much magic is used in a given location, you get these strange ooze creatures, which this I think was a black pudding model from Reaper. And I decided, why not paint it using color shifters to create this kind of magical effect to it. Just picked out the details of all the skulls, the bones, equipment that's hanging out in the ooze, and highlighted the little bubble ripples, with different shades of colored metallics to create the mana abomination. And while I was at it, also picked up two of the smaller ones. Same effect, but they didn't really have any of the bubbles, so they kind of look a little more basic. But while I was there, I also decided to work on my orcs. Now, there's no orcs in 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. I've kind of pieced them together, basically renaming certain unit types, and gone through, and instead using, I believe it's the Gnawlings is supposed to be the big evil race. They're basically Skaven for all intents and purposes. But instead of using them, I wanted to go with the classic orc. Partially because I really liked the new Bobby Jackson range of orcs and goblins that Reaper had put out over the last few years. This is the War Chief, or just generic, Unyielding Brute, I think is the unit entry I've been running him, or at least his type of character as. He's one of the regular infantry characters, and I think he turned out pretty solid. All of his and the rest of the orcs all are painted in a very different way than usual. Basically, I've started with base coating the entire model leather brown. And in using, the leather brown, highlighting it up with varying shades of brown over top of it. So that's its base layer. And more or less stopping the highlight when I reach the color or tone that I want, and then dipping it. And it creates a very kind of homogeneous leather look, but I can get varying degrees of weathering on them. So I think it's come out pretty good. The only things that obviously aren't brown on them are the green orc skin, the blades and metal pieces, and I believe that's about it. So they were quick to paint up. I was actually able to do a good many of these between, what was that, about mid-December. I was able to knock out about 8 of them in one day. I had some free time. And they're really nice. They have this classical orc raider look, which is good for the setting that I'm trying to establish. I'm still losing tufts of static grass. Which, as anyone who's worked with static grass knows, you lose that static grass till the end of time. Anyway, I have a good many of those. Try to speed through a few of them here. They're all plastic, which is nice. So they're lightweight, and they're the bones material, so you have very little chance of chipping and wearing. And on top of all that, the Minwax coat that I've put over them Granted, it takes a while to dry in the colder weather, but once it's dry, you matte varnish these, and pretty much you can drop them. I don't suggest ever doing this, but I have dropped them while bringing them back in from varnishing, and they survive. So a mild impact into concrete, and it's still good to go. I really like how this one's shield turned out. I'll use the axe as the pointer here instead of my finger. But I feel like the weathering and the wearing, as well as the actual wood grain, popped perfectly with the dip and everything. He was a very, very good one to turn out. And what you can see with him in particular is a good example where you can still see the leather brown in the recesses, but I've taken almost a khaki yellow to the top of this guy's hat, and various different shades on his straps and on his kind of kilting and wristlets. I'm not going to bore you with all of these parts. Oh, I almost forgot this guy. He has a nice quilted shawl, and I'm a big fan of how that turned out. That goes through, and the minwax went down into his recesses. Fantastic. Yeah, there's still little pooling, but it just looks like dirty leather. So I'm pleased with how those orcs came out. And so then I worked on, of course, you can't have orcs without goblins. So this first guy on the left, he's a goblin, supposed to be a goblin chieftain. Kind of looks like a belligerent little fella. I chose to go with the classical ochre, yellow-orange goblins, because why not? I have yet to base these guys. You'll note that some of them are a lot glossier than the others. Because it has not risen in temperature really above freezing until today for about a month now. And trying to use varnish when it's below freezing is a horrible idea. You'll get frosting, you'll get the varnish drying in odd ways, it'll get all pebbly, if it even works at all, and you're more likely to just ruin your model. So patience in the winter is definitely something you've got to have. There's basically 2 of each of these goblins that I painted up. Being that they were mostly skin, they came together quite quickly and quite easily. I used the exact same technique on the goblins as I did the orcs, of starting with leather brown and working my way up. And there's 11 of these goblins. This guy's pretty cool. He's just kind of leaning on his sort of halberd. Looks like he took an axe head and stuck it on a long pole stick, but he put it on upside down. So the axe's beard is going down or up instead of down. Got a little spearman, copy of the swordsman with the shield in front of him. Yeah, there's about 2 of each of the goblins in there. They were good fun. And then I used for their unit leader, the 12th figure in the unit, the orc from, I think it's the Ragged Tooth. Several of these figures were from the Last Bones Kickstarter, and it's like Ragged Tooth or Ragged something orc tribe. And I thought, an orc with a whip, he'd go well with a goblin squad. Maybe he's the pack master or the slave master, or whatever it is. He looks angry, and they're not having a good time. I worked on a little terrain for them. Again, some Reaper pieces. Just simple dry brush and wash, and then throw copious amounts of foliage around the base to kind of make it really pop. There's 3 pieces of these. A little archway entrance, a wall section, and then this bigger piece. It's kind of a staircase, so maybe one of your adventurers can climb the staircase and fight off an orc all Errol Flynn style. But I've used these in a few games of 5 Leagues previously, and they kind of work as a nice backdrop. Put some little coarse turf down inside the steps, the grooves of the steps, to kind of imply, some foliage growth and that they'd been there for a while. Those are those pieces. And now finally, for the 40K. I finished off my 2 unrepentias, I jokingly refer to them as. They are my acolytes for my Dark Apostle. Since when I bought that figure and modded him up, there were no units for acolytes. That was a completely, lone character model. I had to have something to use with them. So I picked up a couple of these Sisters of Battle Repentias. Didn't do anything to them. Just painted them up in the color scheme. And they look good. You have them. And it wouldn't be an update without me doing a little bit of Dark Angels work. Yet again, we have some tactical squad members. Can't remember exactly how quickly I got through these. I had planned for doing a 100 figure paint up towards the beginning of this year. I'm kind of spending this year trying to knock projects off of my table. And also, you might note I forgot to paint the eyes on these guys. I don't have the usual blue-gray eyes. I'll have to go back and do that. I was in such a hurry to get them done. I forgot the eyes. All right. Now, these last 10 Marines are kind of unique, and I've got some examples of my previously painted Marines to kind of show you a comparison between the two. But I have this guy and several others like him. I recently discovered on Etsy there's a storefront for a gentleman in New York who has been doing fantastic work putting together Dark Angels, doing full-on 3D sculpts of Dark Angels iconography figures, and this is one of them. So what you get in the sets are just the body and legs, and you have all the robes and such associated with it. You just supply the head, arms and shoulder pads, and backpacks on these. And given the fact that they are identically height, they are perfect to the existing, which is on the left here, Primaris Marines. They look good. The details are there. He also does Eradicators. Technically heavy intercessors just in general. And Assault Marines, which I have an Assault Marine I've pulled aside from what I've bought. He's not painted or primed yet, so you'll be able to see what I mean by what parts are left over. But he has an incredible number. I believe there's about 10 different body designs for each version of Intercessor. I don't think there's quite that many on the heavy Intercessors, though. I think it might be only about 5 variants there. But the regular Intercessors, they have a good amount of detail. And the nice thing was, with these, I only had to order the backpacks off of eBay. I used leftover arms and heads from my previously built intercessors, and they just went on like a dream. Like I said, they match up nicely. In the squad, you can't tell the difference, and I believe it's about $10 for $15 for these. He's also begun to do some Emperor's Children items as well, so that's worth taking a look at. Using one of the leftover bodies, I actually pieced together a lieutenant, which I was able to go out and get him primed. Give him his basic green coat. And again, I just added the holster with the knife, the arms. And this arm is actually from the classic Dark Angels upgrade set from the old models. So that's actually a regular tactical power fist, but scale-wise fits perfectly for the job. Same with these wings. The helmet that's on there is just a standard Primaris helmet with a winged upgrade from that set. And other than that, he is ready for paint and ready for prime time. But to show you an example here of the raw 3D printed version, this is one of the assault figures. The situation was, I don't want to spend the huge amount of absurd price that G-Dub wants for the new assault figs. And in fact, previously I had actually just ordered 3D printed backpacks and put onto the assault intercessors. And I only had 5 of them anyway that were that way. But for the same price as his regular intercessors, this fella's got some assault packed versions. Now, the one issue I have is on every single one of the sides here, there's always this flat spot. I think it's where he has a connection point on the print bed. But there's always this flat bit you have to sand down or scrape down and then go through and maybe green stuff eventually. But I haven't gotten to these yet. But beyond that, the level of detail that he has done on these figures, honestly, I don't think I could tell once they were painted whether or not they're truly G-Dub or not. And it doesn't matter. Workshop's not going to come banging on my door and say I'm not allowed to play with these models on my tabletop. And even if they do, they have no right or domain to do that. But anyway, with these guys, all I had to do was eBay order arms. I used up the last of my heads and shoulder pads, so I'll have to order a few more of those. But otherwise, I'll have some more assault troops to show off come spring here. And again, they're the same height as the traditional Primaris. So there's no distinguishing features that make them stand out differently. But beyond that, that is about all I have worked on. And I can show off here a bit of the bit of what I've done. It's been a fun month or so. I've been struggling, though, the last few weeks to try to get motivated to paint some more. Maybe it'll work out here in a little bit. But other than that, hope you enjoyed the update, and I'll see you on the next one.